So anybody else, any other like just other non-technical questions like that, Tobin?
Without identifying, I know that there's people in this room that are interested in playing professionally on some level.
Sure.
Can you, in a nutshell, kind of explain how you went from being just a Gainesville high school kid playing drums to being where you're doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, I definitely, and I mean, it kind of goes back to the very early part of the clinic when I said, you know, and any of the guys that are my buddies, you know, that can say this, I know Chris, Jeff, you guys can, Tobin, you can attest to it. You don't really control any of that. You know, things come and they go. You just hopefully put yourself in enough places that, and the key thing, and this is a tough one for me because anybody you can see, hear me with me talking, you know, I can, you know, I've got my positives and I've got my negatives, and I can really be abrasive in my own because I'm so, you know, I'm so impatient and anxious. And half the battle's relationships in music. Before, if you really care and you do your homework and you're a nice person, people are gonna find you. If you put yourself out there, I mean, you can't sit in the house and hide out. But you know, if you're willing to go out and say, hey, you know, you know, what do you want to do? And to be very flexible with people's music. You know, like I said earlier, you know, probably for me to get started, so I don't go way off on a tangent on it, is I was lucky to get hooked up with Disney. I was in Gainesville High Band, you know, doing that, and Martha Stark, the, you know, rest her soul, was the band director at the time, phenomenal teacher, and she really inspired me to delve into other things, you know. And I didn't really anticipate. I just always thought I just got to play, you know, play for fun, and hoped I would. And it wasn't until I was maybe a junior in high school, and my drum instructor was a substitute musician out at Disney as well, and as a college student here. And somehow I lucked out and got to go to one of the Disney Christmas auditions for student musicians, and they liked me. And I mean, honestly, I think that half the way I got into that was because I listened to the other musicians, and when I went in and auditioned, I wasn't trying to show them how amazing I thought I was. I really just tried to go, okay, well, what is it you want me to do? And when they told me, I did. And I know that sounds really simple, but you'd be amazed how many people don't do that, because we all come with all of our baggage of what we want. You know, haven't you heard my amazing double bass chops? No, they don't care. You know, nobody's interested. They're like, they need you to play and dance around and smile. You know, and that's, I mean, that's a big, big part of it. This is all cool. This is a small part of being in any walk of life. Every professional in here, I'm sure everybody in, I don't care if you're nursing, so much of your technical know-how is half the battle of your ability to work with others and to work as part of a team and see goals. That's why I love drumline. I'm a huge fan of drumline because it takes people from really disparate backgrounds, throws you together, and you got to make something cool, and you really got to work for an exacting uniformity. It's not to say you lose your individuality. You just kind of put your individuality over in a little box and let's do something cool together. I always call it subjugating the ego. You know, when I play for people, that's definitely it. So again, as far as the getting into that, the professional thing, Disney was a great stepping off point for me because I got to meet people who had worked every walk of life. I mean, you go down there still to this day, when you see a horn player or somebody, the Magic King or something, most of those players have played for anybody from Woody Herman and some of these great big bands that are in the past to Wayne Newton, Vegas shows, Clint Holmes out, you know, I'm talking like in Vegas, or they've, you know, they've been phenomenal teachers. Many of them have doctorates in music, second masters in music. You know, they're really, really well educated. So I always kind of joked. I went to the University of Disney before I ever went to the University of Florida. I mean, and I kind of jumped around. And I had a very good lesson in life too. I had worked out there as a student musician, went to Santa Fe for a while, and then got offered a position. They offered me a full-time job. I had to audition. I got called to the audition and won an audition. And so like at 19, I was in a full-time 5-day-a-week, you know, 40-hour-a-week job out at Epcot Center in a band, playing all the time. You know, bless my mom, she was cool enough to say, you know, Thomas, school's always there. Come, you know, just do, if you're working, you're doing what you love, do it. You know, that's that kind of support, you know, you can't say enough about. And so I got in it, but you know what? After 8 months, Disney had a big cross-the-board cutback in all their bands. They fired like 60 musicians. Guess who? My band got fired. I came back from vacation and found out, guess what? You get 4 weeks. These days they don't even give you that. They come in with security and escort you off property. I mean, I'm not kidding either. That's the part of being the professional musician no one talks about. You know, it's like there's the glamour of like being on the stage and on a tour bus or whatever, but there's a whole bunch of, you know, just like any other job, man. You know, you're working for somebody. You know, it's the Bob Dylan song. Everyone's got to serve. You know, someone with that. But so Disney was kind of my stepping off point. And then I went back to school. I went back to the University of North Florida and thought I'd be a jazz performance major. I did that for about a year, and then went and worked on cruise ships. I played on a ship out in Hawaii, and did that for like 6 months, and and then got called to come back to Disney. Worked there for a couple more years, and about that time, the bug started itching me. I'm like, man, I've never been like in a band, dude. I'm gonna go on the road, be a star. So I went through that process at about 21, 22, and played all over the U.S. And I was playing mostly bars 5 nights a week. And I can tell you honestly, I got a year into it and went, what am I doing with my life? was my days would be kind of like, it made me get creative about education. I probably did more reading and made myself start delving into things. This is kind of pre-computers for you youngsters. It's still like early 90s, so you didn't have the beauty of surfing the web all day and learning things and feeling all, I just was like stuck in, Fayetteville, North Carolina for 5 days, and I mean, nothing against Fayetteville, but just not that much going on. Gainesville's a pretty cool town to grow up in. Fayetteville, not so much. But that said, that really kind of motivated me. It's like at that point I started thinking, man, I've got to get more education. I've got to have other alternatives. And it goes back to what every parent tells their kid. You've got to make sure you don't close yourself off. Great. Any good parenting, they're always going to say, follow your dreams and all, but just make sure you play in. You got to play kind of within society too. Society's got certain things, man. You're not going to have shelter if you don't get out and try and work every day. And so that really hit me on the head. And about that time, I mean, when I came back, got into off the road thing, I started to do a lot more freelancing in Orlando and working with players. And I thought, man, the best thing I could do is cast a wide net. That meaning I did everything from play at Universal and like a street brass band to still subbing at Disney World to teaching lessons. That's when I first started to privately teach, because I thought, man, that's pretty cool. It's a way to give back. You make a living from it, and it's fun. It's really rewarding. And so I started to do that, and I just got lucky. And in a couple places that somebody knew me. I was out so much playing that people were like, man, Tom, you ought to come to this audition. There's this new teen group, man. There's this vocal group. What was the Backstreet Boys? So I got hired. So I became the Backstreet Boys' first drummer. So I mean, and anybody again who knows me though too, classic thing about being in this business, I wasn't the Backstreet Boys guy when they were touring arenas. I'm very good at being like real close. I'm always that guy that's like, I'm like Pete Best for the Beatles, the guy that's, oh yeah, almost there. If I'm there like a day later, but I don't say that to lament anything. I've been blessed, man. I've gotten to do some cool stuff. I'm just saying that you just got to know. Somebody said that. What's that definition of failure? Or definition of success is when you get knocked down, 10 times, getting up 11. I mean, it's really the truth. I mean, you do. I mean, you just got to keep getting up. I mean, you got one life to live, as far as I know. At this point.
You actually said something to me once about doing some sessions somewhere, and the producer called in about the drummer. You wanted to hang. I thought was something that was really cool, and I think everybody should sort of do this, which is ask what it is that, or if you can hang out and figure out what it is that they wanted from whoever's being brought in.
Yeah, to replace
the bigger picture is if you're rejected for something, it doesn't hurt to ask why, and what, and tell them to be honest with you. And then if they tell you what it is that, well, if you didn't do this quite right, or you didn't have this quality that we were looking for, then go work on that quality. Don't walk away from a rejecting process and get discouraged.
No,
that's a big thing.
And I know, I mean, Chris.
So he, so he won't go away. That's why. That's the real answer.
No, and that's true, because you guys got to understand the reason I point out people like Jeff and Chris is, and again, it's like anybody looks at what Tobin has done to build studio percussion. I mean, I said it earlier, I'll say it again. Tobin literally I looked down one time. I had this list of all these things I'd hoped to do around here. It's like gone and done all of them. I talked about it for 10 years. Okay, that to me, man, that's action, and that's just as much the music business. Every facet of that, no matter what you're doing, whether it's playing like that, and that's like Chris says, because Chris, what have you been? Product specialist and for Line 6 and Fender. He's toured and opened for, like, if you didn't even know the Dixie Dregs, Steve Morris. He had his own band with a record deal. You're Capricorn, right? Yeah, I mean, and he did that. How old were you when you had your deal? Yeah.
All right, Casey. All right. Which drum is your snare drum? Which drum's your tom-tom? Your high tom-tom? Which one's your low tom-tom? Where's your bass drum?